Welcome back, Patriots. Welcome to Sons of Liberty 1773. This is indeed where men and women from around the world gather in defense of liberty. I'm your host, Bill Bailey, who will be channeling the patriotism of America's founding fathers. So, my friends, the world continues to be a burning dumpster fire. There's nervous fingers of at least 3 nuclear nations with their fingers on the nuclear trigger. It's not getting better. No one's trying to make peace, but certainly the sinister entities here in America and the world are pushing for probably the last war of humanity. Just isn't looking good. And I have a few articles to share here. They're calling Chernobyl, Ohio now, or East Palestine, Ohio. They're referring to it as Chernobyl, Ohio, because of that what looks like a mushroom cloud, like a nuke went off, of toxic filth that is killing animals, livestock, pets, chickens, fish, in the water, the farmland, ecological, nightmare, and just going to be more to come from that. Feel terrible for those people. I mean, can you imagine your home? I mean, everything's contaminated. You don't know. I err on the side of caution. So if I lived in that area, I've already grabbed my bug out bag and I'm gone, and I'm not coming back. They're not going to tell me it's safe. Come on back home. I know better, and be a long time, months, before I would be convinced to even go near that place. But each to their own. And I mean, I get it. I mean, everything you own is there at your house, your job, your real estate investment, your home, right? And your valuables, your, family heirlooms and all that stuff. I mean, I'd go back with a hazmat suit and clean everything. But prayers for those people. There's no easy fix in that, folks. And I suspect the fallout from that is going to be, we're going to learn a lot more as time goes by. So let's go over here. Let's start with this one at MSNLSD. China warns of retaliation against U.S. entities in balloon saga. China warns that it will retaliate against the U.S. over violations of its sovereignty, potentially escalating a lingering dispute, just as top diplomats, from both nations plan to attend a security conference in Germany. At a briefing Wednesday, Foreign Minister spokesman Wang Wenbin repeated Beijing's view that the Chinese balloon downed by a U.S. jet off the coast of South Carolina this month had inadvertently floated over the country after being blown off course. He criticized the Biden administration's decision to take it out and said the move would have consequences. China is strongly opposed to this and will take countermeasures against relevant U.S. entities that have undermined our sovereignty and security to firmly safeguard our sovereignty and legitimate rights and interests, Wang told reporters at the daily briefing. And then this is over at Pravda, Russia. We got to read what they're putting out over there too. And before anybody says, well, that's Russian propaganda. Well, I think most of the American media is really propaganda. So take it with a grain of salt regardless. Putin and Biden to speak on the anniversary of the start of the special operation. I believe it's the 24th. So not together, but separately. Putin will be making a speech, and so will Biden. Biden will be pushing for the reasons that we need to go to war with Putin. And Putin at this point will probably be given legitimate reasons why Russia is at war with America and NATO, with the pipeline evidence being the latest reason. So Putin and Biden to speak on the anniversary of the start of the special operation. Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Joe Biden will deliver speeches on February 21st on the anniversary of the start of the special military operation in Ukraine. Ukraine promised that Russia would remember that date. So that's that. Warships of Russian Northern Fleet go to sea with nuclear weapons on board. Warships of the Russian Northern Fleet started going to sea with tactical nuclear weapons on board for the first time in 30 years, folks. The Norwegian Intelligence Service reported. During the Soviet times, during the heat of the Cold War, warships of the Northern Fleet would regularly go to sea carrying tactical nuclear weapons, the report said. However, no such cases have been reported since the Cold War. At the same time, after the start of the special operation in Ukraine, the importance of nuclear weapons for Russia has increased significantly, the report said. It was also reported that the Swedish Ministry of Defense took a number of measures to prepare for a possible nuclear attack from Russia. Mikael Claesson, Chief of Staff of the Swedish Armed Forces, said that Russia had an unpleasant habit of doing what she says. In December, Vladimir Putin said the Russian nuclear weapons played the role of a serious deterrent factor. Moscow is aware of all responsibility in possessing, folks, nuclear weapons and is not going to brandish them, he said. Funny, because we'll talk about that later. Remember that. Putin said he won't brandish nuclear weapons. German tanks with crosses on them disturb Russian genetic memory like nothing else on Earth. Moscow sees the tank supplies competition among NATO countries as an escalation of hostilities. On February 2nd, speeding in Volgograd at a concert in honor of the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Stalingrad, Russian President Putin said that German tanks threaten Russia again. Unbelievable, but true. German Leopard tanks with crosses on them are threatening us again. Yet again, they are going to fight against us on the land of Ukraine through the hands of Hitler's descendants, through the hands of Bandera supporters, Putin said. And that does stir some memory, folks, for the Russians. That was a terrible war, and there was a lot of casualties. They were starving to death, and actually cannibalism happened during that fight. True story. 4 European countries may disappear for sake of U.S. interests. This is again at Pravda, Russia. Russian special military operations in Ukraine is nothing else but Moscow's counteroffensive against the U.S.-led Atlantic world. The proxy war between the United States and the Russian Federation may cause not only Ukraine, but a number of European states to fall apart and disappear. I believe fall apart and disappear is code words for become part of Russia. European countries that may disappear. Let's be frank, the U.S. will never dare to go to direct war with Russia after the defeat of Ukraine. This means that they will use other intermediaries to continue the conflict. There is no shortage of candidates, but Poland, Lithuania, Romania, and Finland appear to be the most likely ones. Of course, it all depends on the Russians, the article says, and it goes in and gives some reasons why they could be next to fall if they meddle with Putin taking Ukraine. Putin makes it clear what will be left of Ukraine after special operation ends. And you can see on the map there, there's not a lot left of Ukraine. Some of it, but not all of it. Putin thus made it clear that Ukrainian nationalists would lose their territories. NATO does not want the Russian people united. At a press conference on December 22nd, Putin also said that Russia had long tolerated the war that was unleashed against the Russians in Ukraine. They will continue dividing but we will work to unite. Nobody wants the unification of the Russian people but us. We will be doing it, and we will succeed, the president said. If the current war in Ukraine is partially a civil war, then the second part of this war is with NATO. Are you listening to that, folks? And he's got the second part of the war is about to begin. I think we'll learn a lot on the 21st when Putin makes his speech to the Russian Federation. And I think they're going to, they've 300,000 to 500,000 man army at the border with a lot of new armament, tanks, missiles, weapons of war to go to do it this time like he probably should have the first go round. So that's coming, and he's not backing down, by the way. This is at Zero Hedge. U.S. informs Ukraine it doesn't have enough long-range missiles to send them. So Zelensky, who, and I was told, and it was reported that we would be sending Ukraine these longer-range missiles that can reach out 190 miles. And I said, when they do that, the Ukrainians will be bombing Russian cities. Moscow, whatever cities they can get to, they'll smuggle the missile systems in, and they will launch them and start blowing up stuff in Russia. So anyways, Ukraine has been urging for the U.S. to immediately transfer Army tactical missile systems, which have a range of up to 190 miles, capable of being fired from the HIMARS rocket systems, which the Ukrainians already possess, compliments of America. But now the U.S. is informing the Ukrainians that it doesn't have enough of these long-range missiles, even if it were willing to provide them, citing 4 officials. Political writes that transferring ATACMS to the battlefield in Eastern Europe would dwindle America's stockpiles and harm the U.S. military's readiness for the future, the people said. Well, I think there's been a military mindset change at the Pentagon because they were willing to give this stuff up. And maybe it's dawned on them that we're going to be in a war with China, a kinetic war with China in the South China Sea, and we're dwindling our stockpiles, which isn't real smart, but I actually thought that was part of Joe Biden's plan as he drains the strategic oil reserve to nothing. This is over at The Sun. It's kind of a tabloid, folks, so again, but doesn't mean they're wrong in what they're printing. Red Scare, Russian nuclear Bear bombers fly near Alaska as Putin taunts U.S. days after object was shot down in UFO storm. Now remember, Putin just said he's not going to brandish nukes, but he's brandishing nukes. The footage reportedly shows the noisy missile carriers flying over neutral waters in the Bering Sea, accompanied by 30 Russian fighter jets very close to U.S. airspace. So there's that. And then Vlad taunts Putin deploys 2 supersonic Blackjack nuclear bombers near UK in warning to West just hours after buzzing US. So they continued over there to threaten them. Vlad's fury, Putin deploys nuclear-armed warships in Arctic for first time in 30 years in chilling warning to the West. Russia hasn't felt the need to taunt us with their nuclear weapons in over 3 decades, folks. What changed? I can tell you what changed, and it changed November 3, 2020. North Korea parades largest long-range missile array, and they do this once a year, folks. They have their military parade where Kim Jong-un and the family of goons get together and look over the slave labor that's building the weapons of war to start World War III to, and they smile and jump up and down and probably go eat pizza. North Korea is showing its largest display ever of intercontinental ballistic missiles. A number of analysts say could potentially challenge the U.S. defense system. About a dozen of the long-range ICBMs were shown at Wednesday's military parade. Leader Kim Jong-un, the little corpulent warlord, was seen at the midnight parade with his young daughter elevated to his side. And there you are. And they do have sophisticated weapons of war, folks. That's just a fact. So that's always there. U.S. shoots down Iranian-made drone over occupied Conoco gas field. Apparently it wasn't a party balloon like they shot down over Lake Huron. And then just this real quick, this is a joke because we all know that inflation is through the roof and that these numbers they give us are BS. But Biden economy, inflation up 6.4%, higher than expected. Household budget stressed, strained, and broken, if that isn't the truth. And then China knows what's going on with the global economy and the overprinting of the fiat currency and that it's going to end cataclysmically. However, they are smart and so is Russia. They've been buying up gold for a long time. Chinese gold imports hit highest level since 2018. China's not dumb. The Chinese communists are not stupid. Our enemies are not stupid. Our enemies are cunning. They're smart. And right now, you know what they're doing? They're salivating over their enemy, the America, being weak, led by a feckless moron right there in the shades, and his son, who are compromised by the Chinese Communist Party and who have sold America out throughout his whole political life. And there's the dooms team on the other side, Iran, North Korea, Russia, China. I wrote a book about this, folks, and people have read my book said, Bill, your book's coming true. And, it came to me in a dream, man. I'm not a writer. That's what drove me to write this 500-page book. It took 13 years learning Earth's deathly history, and it's all playing out right now. I won't bore you with the details. Just go to thegreatshipofknowledge.com or the link to my author website's always in the description of these videos. So the war, the march toward World War continues. And again, we're in World War III now. It's starting. Whenever a world war starts, it's not like this is the day the war started. You creep into it. It's mission creep. And we are creeping in it at a faster and faster pace. Short of a peace deal, and, pray for peace. Short of a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia, I expect we will be in heated world war. I would think months, but it could happen today. I think it will happen before the 2024 election at the far side of this. And then while we're focused and wasting our ammunition in Ukraine, we've got a real enemy coming, folks, that we bought and paid for, America. They got the little Joe Biden sticker on the gas pumps with the high gas prices says, I did that. You could have one of those for America pointing at China that says, we did that. Because we should have never made the communist empire what it is. Should have never happened. I believe it was Henry Kissinger. I used to blame Richard Nixon, but I believe Kissinger negotiated. He saw cheap labor and money. That America could get rich off cheap labor from China. Screw that, we're going to make the Chinese communists rich, and they're going to steal our intellectual property, and they're going to build a military that's damn near second to none. And I still think America is the greatest military in the world, in our men and women right now, as I speak. I believe that. But we've got to have strong leadership, or the military's worthless. You got to have somebody that knows how to wield power. Trump knew how. Reagan knew how. I mean, we've had some strong leaders in this country. Peace through strength works, folks. But peace through weakness does not. It does not work. It's what starts wars. And I think Russia, I wrote that Russia, Vladimir Putin said the worst thing that ever happened in the world was the collapse of the Soviet Empire and those satellite countries allowed to break free from the motherland. Worst thing that ever happened. And he's repeatedly said he's going to restore it. So I believe, I'm hoping, Putin is going to stop at Ukraine. And I've said Ukraine's not a NATO ally. It's not our job to protect Ukraine, although, our government meddled over there and created this problem in the first place. Putin didn't attack Ukraine under Trump because Trump is tough. Now we got a weak leader and he saw his opportunity. And I've said, I'm against this war. I'm for peace. I want people to make peace. And the only way I would change my mind is if Putin blitzkrieged across Ukraine and started to conquer Europe and then did attack one of our NATO allies. Then it would be a different story, but that's not where we're at. But that's it. So my advice that I'm giving at the end of every one of my videos, because of the crazy world we're living in where nuclear world war could start tomorrow. It's very possible that the reason they're going after these small unidentified flying objects, you know, whether it's a party balloon or a drone or a spy balloon, whatever it is, a dirigible, an airship, regardless of size now, is it's very possible that the DEFCON level has been elevated and that this is all part of the new protocols, and that's why we're seeing this. And on that note, they are doing a NORAD preparedness test in Washington, D.C. Might be today. They do these every few years, so it's not totally out of the ordinary. But, you know, the timing is peculiar just because of all the craziness in the world right now. So my advice is keep prepping and keep praying, my friends. Stack this stuff to the rafters. Our world is going to turn dark and ominous as we head into the storm of our lifetimes, if not of humanity's lifetime. So let me know what you think in the comments section below. Please subscribe, like, and share this video. May God bless you and keep you and your family safe. I will see you in the next video. Sons of Liberty out.